Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Thank you guys for joining us once again.
Hi, you guys. We really appreciate you being here today. It's going to be interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, it's we are on this roller coaster ride, and there's everybody has different takes, different opinions on everything that's happening. There's still a ton of people out there that think this is all complete BS. Complete BS. But boy, it's happening rapidly, and there's a lot of things that seem to be coming together at one time here.
There is, and it just when you see one thing happen, and it's like Michael said a long time ago, this is like watching a huge train wreck in slow motion, and I mean that's putting it mildly.
Oh, I'm glad you got notified, Scott. Good to see you. Um, and everybody, Scott's the one that put up our Discord, so thank you, Scott. Good to see you, Zero. Good to see you, Nicole, Blue Beetle, Weed Me, End Times 2021, period. Yeah, I think 2021, I mean, hard to imagine it going to a higher level than it is now, but it's going to. We know this, and some say, why are you spreading fear, and why are you adding to this and giving it fuel? But if we don't talk about it, then perhaps there's going to be people that are oblivious. And we've seen it in our own lives with family members, locally. And we've known kind of what's coming for a while. We've had a good feel for what's coming. And I trust my, I trust my intuition a lot, And I mean, just for instance, I had a case of somebody stealing my debit card, and I dreamed it, and it kind of happened. I got notified last night by the bank, and I had dreamed it in the morning. I went and checked my wallet and looked, and the card was there, but then there was fraudulent activity on it, which was reported, and we were talking last night late with the security. But I had dreamed it, so this has been my life. I've always had these precognitive dreams and visions that come through, and I pay attention to them. I think a lot of us do, and if we don't pay attention to them, or we just think, oh, that's nothing, then sometimes we're missing a cue to do something. And in this case, we need to prepare, and I hope everybody's already prepared. I have a lot of things to go over with you guys.
Yeah, there's a few things that we found putting the show together this morning, which, it definitely kind of confirms for us that it's imperative to be ready for something significant. And tell your family too, if nothing else, if you can get your family members to really wash their hands, that might save your own butt. So maybe they might not be paying super close attention to you, but your voice is that seed in the back of their head. It's still important. Don't give up on them.
Yeah, most definitely. And we did do one more run, because last time we had shopped was about 2 weeks previous, and we've just been picking up from the local farmers. And we made the decision to just do one more run, just to round things out. And so we did. And there's still some stuff I had ordered that's still coming in. But again, with as little as we eat, we could comfortably extend it six months to a year. I would say, depending on kids, grandkids, and other family members, and how well stocked they are, and if we have to end up helping them, of course we will. Everybody's going to, everybody's going to pull together, and that's what we really got to do in these times, is pull together. And so, as far as, let's see here, I want to start. Okay, let's look at this, guys. And this is towards the end. So these are lines outside the Sunnyvale Costco. Look at that. Okay. Our time for having a lot of time to get ready is pretty much over now. I think now, the public is waking up to this. And of course, I don't see anybody with a mask on. And in the U.S., we're not going to see that, for maybe a little bit longer. If we could get masks too, that's part of it as well.
And then there's that, if you can get the masks. But I've heard people have been having really good luck going to the hardware store and getting painting masks.
And we don't know how good they really are when you get down to it. We've heard so many different things. But, this is California. Look at this. California. Do you see the size of those lines? So, yeah, the runs have started. They've started. That's incredible. The size of the lines there. And I don't know what you guys are finding, but I mean, where we went shopping, the town's got less than 1,000 people. And as Cindy was saying, there's no hospital for how long? 150 miles?
Yeah, like 100 miles or so. So if you get sick, you wouldn't even be treated there. You would go outside of that town somewhere.
Yeah, so, and people get airlifted out of this area because it would take too long to drive somewhere if there's an emergency. But yet, there was a lot of food and nobody seemed to be panicked. And nobody was awake, basically. Well, they're awake in California now. Look at that. But of course, now we have President Trump, going live. And today he said that they're going to go live and update this situation on a daily basis. So now things really are changing. And, I think that says it all, looking at the lines out there in California, Sunnyvale, California.
Yeah, and, that's a Sunnyvale, San Jose, Santa Clara area.
You lived out that way.
I did live out there. Yeah, I've never seen that before. And if that's how it looks, I think there's a few Costco's out there. But yeah, I mean, people wouldn't tolerate that. They could always go somewhere else if there's somewhere else to get stuff. So for them to wait in line like that, there's something going on there.
So N Golden 0003 says, is there any in Kentucky as far as cases? I wouldn't rely on people reporting cases. That's just me. Like I told Cindy, please talk to your daughters and tell them it's time to keep the kids home. I thought it was time a while ago to keep the kids home, but that's me. I mean, I'd like to err on the side of caution, so I don't see the sense in sending kids, out now. I think that, for one, they haven't been testing. We've been talking about this, and now they're showing more and more cases. There's probably thousands, really. So is it worth it? I don't think it's worth it, but that's me. Everybody has to make their own decision. There's a lot of things now that we can see cats out of the bag, Sedona's beautiful, David. We love Sedona. We love that area. I haven't heard about any cases over there. But again, recognize that what we're getting is just drips and drabs, and it's not even the tip of the iceberg. Maybe barely the tip of the iceberg is what they're telling us. And that's California. What we were looking at was Sunnyvale, California. So, gosh, there's so much to talk about here. I was going to end with this, but this is Wuhan. And now there's very few lights on in a lot of these buildings, anymore. So that's got to be, well, in and of itself, that's pretty damn scary because, at first there was a lot of lights on. And, now there's few lights on, and what you have is cleanup crews in there, right? Cleanup crews in there taking bodies out and sterilizing places. And if there's very few lights on in these buildings, you got to wonder how many people are left in them. These places that were boarded up, welded shut. It's it's scary, to see what's going on. Now, we recognize fear is food for certain negative beings, and so we don't want to feed them, but at the same time, you want to know, because a lot of people have been totally asleep to this, thinking, oh, well, that's over there. It's not coming over here, and I've seen on some sites that cover things like this, people making remarks, negative remarks towards other countries, other ethnicities. It just shows complete ignorance. And now it's coming, home to roost. So, I hope people are awake. That's the thing, it's, you got to get people to wake up, because, if one person takes some precautions, they might end up, saving 6 to 8 other infections. You know what I mean?
Right. And I mean, it's our choice to feel fear if we want to. If you don't want to, then don't. But be prepared. We don't need to feel fear, but we can be prepared. It's all about choices. And what we're doing is we're choosing to be prepared and talk to people around us. So hopefully, like Michael said, it only takes just one person washes their hands and maybe they'll save 8-10 people. There's nothing wrong with that.
And there's so many layers to this. We've talked about FIVE, and we were also leaning in that area, and I don't doubt that is a component. FIVEG is, I'm sure, a component, but yet, now I know of people that are falling in areas where there is no FIVEG. So there, it's not, I don't think it's just that. I don't think there's just one thing going on. I think there's more than one thing going on at the same time. And this over here is state quarantine and isolation statutes. And so this is the National Conference of State Legislatures, something to be aware of. All the links are there for you guys. You could go through and look at it, and it talks about the Federal Public Health Service Act, which, includes the powers of the president as well as others to quarantine people, and to basically pluck us out of our houses as they deem necessary and send us to different locations as they deem necessary in order to stop the spread of certain diseases, such as new and reemergent flu viruses, things like that, as well as so many others. And this does include COVID-19 right there. So we have to recognize we're going to a different place. We see other countries on lockdown, and the lockdowns are spreading. And it's now starting to happen to us here in the U.S. And we should be aware of that, and aware of things such as, have contingency with family members and loved ones. And this is really kind of like watching a sci-fi movie unravel. It really, really is. It's like one of those scary movies that we're watching actually happen in real life here. But I do think we'll get through this, but this is going to be quite a roller coaster ride for us. So we recognize this. They're going to start to screen more people. As we've seen, most of the screening is just at these checkpoints and just simply with a thermometer. And if you're running high and maybe you are nervous, that could raise your heartbeat. I mean, I would be, a little bit nervous if, government officials are taking my temp.
Yeah.
And, maybe you just got out of the car, or you just loaded up the car with supplies and, you're running a little hot. You could end up somewhere and you don't even know where you're going to end up. And so, this is something to check out. There's going to be a lot of stuff that we want to check out. Every country's different, and every country has its own different customs. And so this is one that's kind of disgusting to me. And this is the city of Qom, and the epicenter of the outbreak in Iran, which may have, it may be the most virulent outbreak that we've seen, as far as people affected to losing lives ratio. And this is going to get us into mutations and stuff, and that's something to watch, because there were so many people again saying, well, isn't it just Asians that got it, over there? But no, it's not just Asians, and it's mutating, and it's going to keep mutating and changing. So everybody, all humans, are basically susceptible and at risk. Everybody, again, it's going to depend on your immune system and your habits as well. Well, this is a religious epicenter, and so they're saying that the regime is not dissuading people from doing what they usually do. And in this particular place, people come and they pilgrimage here, and they actually lick these religious shrines. And you want to talk about spreading stuff, going and licking something that other people have been touching and licking in these times. That's just crazy.
That's just horrible. I could make a comment on that about other things, but I won't. It's just disgusting. Wow.
And talk about spreading stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That would really spread stuff as well. That's just crazy. But every culture has its own customs. So, it's just, we have to do what we can do. And now I'm going to jump over to here, because as I've shared with you guys, ever since I was a kid, like 12 years old, I was fascinated with Nostradamus. So, now I'll be 55 this year. It's like 43 years, studying prophecies from Nostradamus, biblical, all different ones. Yeah, scratch and sniff, I know, right? It's truly gross. And so this hit me, and we don't know if this is true or not, but when we look at the timing of certain things, it really, this kind of sent chills down me, and I think Cindy felt it too.
Definitely. Yeah, this is where my cackles went up when you pointed this out.
And we don't know if it's actually verified yet. So we see this is a real famous one. And some people have taken Mabus to be all different things. Some people think he's the third, quote-unquote, antichrist of Nostradamus, because Nostradamus talked about 3 antichrists. So this is century 2, and this is quatrain 62. And so Mabus then will soon die, and there will come of people and beasts a horrible rout. Then suddenly one will see vengeance, 100-hand thirst, hunger when the comet shall run. And so this is one of the most famous of his quatrains. And there's a lot of quatrains that feel like they're in play right now because of everything that's happening. We have so much happening right now on the scene here. So people have thought Mabus was different things. Obama. Some people thought it was Obama. Some thought it was Ma Bush, B-U-S, and thinking it was George, the first George wife. And so when she passed on, they were watching closely. But, one thing is the comet. So he talks about it being when the comet will run. So we'll know about a comet, and you would think it would be a visible comet that would be seen in the sky that people would be talking about for a little while, because the comet will run. So it's something that's in our attention that we're looking at for a period of time. And BP did a video a week or so ago talking about potential naked eye comet, which I checked out. And so we do have the potential for a naked eye comet. And it's this one, Comet Y4 Atlas. So it was, and what's interesting too is that this one they think may be part of the Great Comet that came back in the 1800s. So interesting too, that's Atlas, because Atlas holds the world on his shoulder. There's all these symbology things going on. So this one, the best chance for it is in May to become fully visible. It's acting like it might. So it's giving off some debris and showing some light. So it might be the first naked eye comet that we had in quite a while. And the comet's orbit is inclined 45 degrees relative to the ecliptic. There's something else about, there's another quatrain regarding Samobran, and people have tried to figure out what that means as well, but it has to do with that 45 degree angle, so that might be an interesting thing to look into as well. But the best shot seeing this comet is mid-May at dusk from the northern hemisphere. So right now we're getting ready to go into March, right? And there's some quatrains that talk about a great war in April as well. We don't know what started this outbreak. We really don't. We don't know. Although you got to wonder, I mean, it feels like it's a bioweapon, and if it is, and depending on how it mutates, did China release it by mistake? Did China release it on purpose? Did China take acceptable losses? And knowing that this is going to mutate and get worse later on, we just don't know. There's all sorts of stuff. We've heard of China catching a cold. Everybody's talked about that video from 2010. So to get back to this quatrain and Mabus, some people think it's Ray Mabus, who was the ambassador to, I believe, Saudi Arabia at one time. He's been in the Navy for years. And then others take this to be M. Abbas, and that is Mahmoud Abbas, who is the Palestinian president. And so you see Hal Turner reports claim Palestinian president is dead. And this is Mahmoud Abbas, or M. Abbas. So there are those that have interpreted Mabus as being Mahmoud Abbas. And interesting that, being the president of Palestine, obviously, he's in a spot where it's very, very contentious, and you have, obviously, the threat of war always there between Israel and everybody else in the Middle East when you get down to it. So we have reports coming in from the Middle East claiming Mahmoud Abbas, the president of the Palestinians, has died. He's the president of the state of Palestine and Palestinian National Authority. He's been the chairman of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, since 11th of November 2004, and Palestinian president since 15th of January 2005. And so he's a member of the Fatah party and was elected chairman of Fatah in 2009. So he was elected on 9th of January 2005 to serve as president of Palestinian National Authority until the 15th of January 2009, but extended his term until the next election, 2010. And then he was voted into the office indefinitely by the PLO Central Council. So, there's reports coming out that have not been verified that he is dead. And again, some have interpreted him to be M. Abbas. So we will have to see if that's the case. But what's curious is we do have this comet, and we do have, obviously, we could see where war could develop at any time. When you're looking at what's going on right now between Turkey and Russia, for instance, very, very ominous. And of course, we have this plague. So Mabus will then soon die, and then there will come of people and beasts a horrible rout. So again, this is reference to something that's killing people and animals. And we've talked about some other quatrains too that seem to indicate a great plague coming about. And it feels like this is all kind of tying in together. Interesting, nonetheless.
Yeah. Well, it's rumors of who died, because it's just rumors. And what's that name, that Palestinian guy's name again? Someone's asking in the chat exactly who died. See, it's reports claim.
It's Mahmoud Abbas.
Mahmoud Abbas. Their reports are coming in from the Middle East claiming Mahmoud Abbas, president of the Palestinians, has died. So it just sort of fits in with the quatrain. More, things to put together. And then when we looked at the comet thing, you guys, that's when my cackles kind of, they kind of sprouted up. Those little spidey hairs on the back of your neck reported to me to pay some attention to that. So there's a lot of things that can happen individually, and it seems like to pay attention, it's when they come together, and that's all part of prophecy and all of these things that makes it really interesting. And I just don't want to see a lot of people hurt. I saw someone in the chat that said that they feel they released several different strains, and that's why we're seeing all these different people being sick. And I don't know, you guys, it's curious.
Then, of course, everybody's looking from a biblical standpoint, saying when they say peace and safety, then destruction comes, and waiting for a treaty or peace accord. And so now we have President Trump today also saying that he is stopping the war in Afghanistan, come to an agreement with the Taliban and pulling the troops out. So all U.S. troops to withdraw from Afghanistan in 14 months under peace treaty. So there's your peace treaty. And everything is like a big script, as you guys were saying, and there is like this big script, and it's kind of like, okay, are you guys smart enough to figure it out? Can you put all the pieces together? And then again, we recognize the conditioning of the mind and the power of intent. And so are these things seeded into our minds on purpose in order to get us to help manifest them as well? And there are a lot of people that are very worried about that as well. So, interesting to see that we have this peace agreement with the Taliban. And as you know, 19 years the U.S. has been there. And then before that, Russia was there. So, Afghanistan's had nonstop war for decades on decades on decades. So, this is Senator Rand Paul, who says it is a long last time to bring our troops home and stop the endless wars. I think he's saying long past time. I'm pleased to see this progress, and he says he's thankful for President Trump for his willingness to put America first and finally get our troops out of Afghanistan. And both Rand Paul and Ron Paul have been saying forever that one of the first things they would do is bring all the troops home. And I agree with that. I think that we have allowed the U.S. to be the military and policing force of the NWO and this banking cabal. So bringing troops home would be a good thing. And here we see now, this is the updated numbers. So we're looking at 85,994. Of course, it's way more than that. We see China has almost stopped reporting right now. So you got to wonder what's going on in China. What is going on in China? We don't know. Unfortunately, we have no clue. Is it a case where it's settling down truly in China? And, maybe not. But we look at South Korea, which is doing a lot of testing. Their numbers are flying straight up through the roof, 3,150. Look at Italy now, 1,128. 705 others, 593 in Iran, and they're not reporting, really. So, Iran is probably 10 times that from what we're hearing, at least. 241 in Japan, they're not really reporting accurately. Neither is Singapore. France jumps up to 100. Hong Kong, 94. Germany, 79. U.S., 68. And again, that's without really testing. And that's what so many people saying they're under gag orders not to. And that comes in every day. More people saying, I'm in this state, I'm in that state. We've been told not even test or look for it. So what do you see here now? Well, we see and none of these numbers are accurate really, but if they're proportionate, we see Italy has jumped tremendously up. So obviously it doesn't matter, what the ethnic background at the moment, perhaps, Iran jumped tremendously up, and those countries are way ahead now of like Hong Kong and Singapore and Japan, at least what's being reported. And we see these circles are growing and growing, and when are they going to connect? As we see more coming through in the U.S., and there's only a few in Mexico. I think there's 4 cases now in Mexico. I'm not sure what they're showing here. 3 in Mexico is what they're showing. I heard of a 4th. But basically, we're heading towards, we probably have about 40% of the countries in the world now reporting cases, 35 to 40. The least amount is in South America and Africa at this point. And again, it's the summer, but I'm not sure how much that's really going to matter when you get down to it. I think that might be, just looking for some optimism. Now, looking too, I'm so freaking suspicious of all this, and you guys are too. Yeah, I know you guys are awake, and you're suspicious too. And obviously, this thing looks like it's probably the most potent bioweapon created, and it's got to be a creation. This is not a natural thing. You see, now there's reports too, this is also coming out of Hal Turner, that the Iranian president and another key parliament member infected. Well, we had the vice president, we've had so many ministers, it's like hitting their upper echelons really hard.
Yeah, talk about things coming together and things looking suspicious. How many of these public figures have come down with it, have gotten it? Not to mention, who was that one guy that wears the glasses? I forgot his name right now. He's a singer or something. Oh, I can't remember the name. Was it John Lennon?
Oh, no, Elton John.
Oh, Elton John.
Elton John.
Yeah, and it just really makes you wonder, like, what the heck is going on? This is like a frog in warm water, and the water is getting warmer and just warmer. It's a little slow, but a little fast for my liking too. So, and things just keep coming together, and the numbers are still going up, not down, and the WHO, not sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that name. I'm trying to watch my vocabulary words. They don't have accurate tests, and the ones that they do have, they say don't work. So, it's just all really messy. It feels so deceitful. And if there's one thing that makes me sick, it's deceit. I can't handle it. It's horrible. Bad stuff.
Yeah, it is. And so Iran now appears to have the highest number of government officials infected by the coronavirus, which was officially reported in the city of Qom on the 19th. So I find this super suspicious. The way it's attacking, it's such a perfect weapon of sorts. It's taking out the whole Iranian regime here. This is very, 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 very curious, to say the least. And that, again, raises questions as to who released it, what's the real purpose going on, and what will the mutations look like. That's what I'm really, really curious about as well. So, going back to President Trump, you see U.S. ups travel restrictions, as Trump says, more cases likely. So, changing his tone a little bit, perhaps a little, I would say so. The tone was changed a little bit because, boy, it was downplayed the other day, and that hurt him as far as the numbers. I saw surveys that came through and said that he dropped tremendously in his approval rating because of what people took to be just simply being dismissive about this and not being honest about this.
Well, there's also financial ties as to why they can't call it that P word too.
Yeah, which we're going to show in a second. So he did say that he was considering additional restrictions, including closing the U.S. border with Mexico in response to the virus. We want to lower the amount of travel to and from the most impacted areas, but Mexico's only got 4 cases. We have way more than that. So why, again, closing the border? And the whole time I've felt that, like, the wall thing is not about immigration. This, and I still feel like there's something way bigger to all this. For one, it's going to limit anybody's ability, because they were also talking about travel between states, not just travel between borders. And they did mention the possibility of closing all borders. They're talking about this now. And so first, what happens is things get kind of leaked, casually mentioned. Well, we'll take a look at that again as we progress, type of thing. We'll have to reassess and see. But we've had country after country after country close its borders. So, will the U.S. close its borders? I would bet on it. Yeah, I think we're going to have our borders closed. I think that's coming. Maybe in March, maybe in April. Maybe it'll be in May, but. It is coming. I think it's going to be done in stages, as we see, as slowly but surely more and more cases are going to pop up, perhaps even between states. Perhaps some states will close their borders with other states. So I don't know if you guys have thought about that as well. Like, say right now, California seems to be getting it the worst. And they were talking about the West, in terms of the West is in worse shape. Although the West is way more spread out. So, when it starts to impact the East and the I-95 corridor, it's going to be a mess over there. But again, as he says here, Alex Azar, it's just all a basic containment strategy. So you're going to see daily updates now. Okay, so obviously it's something that's only getting started.
And I think that's why it's important to, prepare, grow what you can. And if you are like in a apartment or something, we have a very good friend, Dave, who grows most all of his food in his apartment. He has a lot of pots and plants, and he makes it happen. Where there is a will, there's a way. You can start growing stuff. You don't have to just have pretty house plants. You can have pretty edible house plants. So there's many different ways to look at this. I mean, it doesn't look like we're in for a very fun time, but it's what we make it. It's how we choose to live our life. And, we just need to do the best we can with what we've got.
Yeah, and I just got something from Bill, who's a friend up in Canada there. Canada won't ban flights from COVID-19 hotspots or shut their borders. But the U.S. is now starting to talk about it, so we'll have to see how this progresses on a daily basis. And of course, the Democrats say Trump could have acted sooner. Yeah, I mean, it did seem like they were definitely slow to react. But now they're starting to move forward. And here you see Italy and South Korea to join China as CV pariahs, as countries close borders, many countries closing borders. And we brought this up before, and thanks, Raven, for bringing this to our attention. $425 million in World Bank catastrophe bonds set to default if coronavirus declared a pandemic by June. And this is why they won't call it a P word. This is why they say that they don't declare pandemics now. Well, right. Because the bonds would default. So it's better to have people perish than to lose that 425 million.
Right. So it's always a case of follow the money. All roads lead to Rome. Follow the money. Follow the money. If you can follow the money, you're going to find every answer you've ever had a question for. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in. And until we change the way we want to live, that's just the way it's going to be. When the almighty dollar is just constantly almighty, keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get what you've got. And there's some of us, like you guys in the chat room and Michael and I, we've decided to do our best to change priorities and not necessarily make it so financially, like that's not the main goal. The main goal is health and happiness. Unfortunately, we do need that money to energetically sustain, but we can always change our goals and priorities.
Yeah, I see David in the chat room is a chef with his own restaurant. So yeah, I mean, these things are going to impact people hugely, and seeing your life's work potentially, be washed away with this pandemic, because that's really what it is. Whether they want to call it that or not, it is. What else is it? It's in a third to 40% of the countries of the world right now in in quantities. They're not testing. If they were to test, we instead of looking at 80 something thousand, we'd be talking more about millions. Because obviously that's where it's at. And there are multiple things going on too. I don't think that this is the only thing going on. We've seen all sorts of creepy stuff going on around the globe. So here you see, this is Dr. Eric Feigl-Ding. CDC says they have tests on hand to do about 75,000 test samples. That would be basically just about a week or less of testing in South Korea. And South Korea is only a population of about California plus Oregon and Washington and the size of Maine. So 75,000 is not enough. Why so slow? Why so slow? It's been incredible. So, here you see Meg Terrell is quoting Messenger. Enough testing kits now to test more than 75,000 people. There's only like 400 and something tested, up to date. So it's ridiculous, and over here you see the 3 new Washington cases everybody's talking about are presumptive cases because they have not had certified lab tests, not validated by the CDC. But at least they got some kits available now, And so, okay, so we have one person. There's 3 new presumptive cases of CV-19, including 1 person who died, 2 new cases associated with a long-term care facility called Life Care, and 1 healthcare worker, a woman in her 40s, no known travel outside the U.S., 2nd woman in her 70s. So we're seeing a lot, and I used to run retirement communities. That was the last time I was in the corporate world, and have been in a community when it was on lockdown before. So I've seen these type of things, not in this scale, but before in person, and it's a mess. Those communities too, things spread so fast because in those communities, like the one I worked at, I actually ran 10 different ones at different times. People would eat together, and that was the big thing, was getting people to eat together. And we'd have 100 to 150 residents in most of them, and one of them was bigger, had over 300 residents, plus staff in a big room at one time. Not good when you're trying to stop the spread. So I certainly hope facilities like that are doing what they can. And this is true. And if millions of Americans have to stay home or get locked down, this is a huge problem, because it means you're not going to get paid, and 24% of workers don't get paid sick leave. 69% of workers with the lowest wages don't get paid sick leave. We're heading to a new place now. And so here we see CV-19 number of cases in France, Iran, Canada, UK, and US during the first 45 days in each country, and recognize again, not a lot of testing being done. Look at that. Ooh, that is just going straight on up there. Iran is getting just slammed. And you got to wonder, why is it so bad over there? Ireland reports its first case. As eventually it does seem like it's going to hit pretty much every country across the globe.
Yeah, there's not going to be anywhere to run or hide or anything like that. Our best bet is to just not act out of fear, but treat it like, okay, this thing is going to happen, and this is what you need to get ready for it so you can deal with it, and keep that emotion like very monotone. Like, don't feed it. I think they are counting on a lot of people to lose their SHIT and make a lot of dumb moves. That's usually how these bigger people, they behave, and they're not very nice about it. So they're not worried about, they're worried about their agenda. That's what they're worried about. So you and I, we need to worry about what is our agenda? What is our priority? Is it to keep our families safe and fed? I think so.
And we watched President Trump, before coming on and everything. And one thing that his officials kept stressing was that the chance here in the U.S. is very, very, very low. Very, very, very low. That's what they kept saying. Do we believe it? I don't. I don't.
Say do the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. So, they're planning new restrictions at the border. I don't understand why they're focusing on the Mexican border, so much, but always seem to be fixated on the Mexican border. The other things, like I said, recognize that there could be restrictions at state borders, and that might affect a lot of us big time. And here you see Corona fear. France bans all mass public gatherings in confined spaces as German and Swiss fairs are canceled. So, yeah, this is going to a different level now. No gatherings of more than 5,000 people in confined spaces will be allowed in France. And France is skyrocketing too, and is France going to be the next Italy? Because it does seem like it's going up there pretty quick as well. So we have it skyrocketing in many locations right now. And again, this is all without a lot of testing being done. Here you see Iran's official COVID-19 infections rise to nearly 600 as the U.S. slightly eases sanctions against Iran, because they've suffered for that as well. Official death toll risen to 43, and we know those numbers are not accurate either. And this just tells you, and I am so thankful that we're not in North Korea. Mm-hmm. I'm so thankful that we're not in China. I realize the U.S. is far from perfect. And, are there other countries maybe you breathe a little easier in? Perhaps, yeah, But here, look at this. It's widely believed that North Korea has CV-19 cases, but its control measures, if RPTSs are to be believed, are rather harsh. North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un allegedly sanctioned the execution of the first North Korean patient testing positive. Basically they just took him out back and shot him. That's how they treat him over there. That's the way you...
That's how you contain it?
Yeah. Wow. That's just horrible. And, how does somebody like that stay in power besides being... We recognize there's puppets. They're all puppets on strings to a degree. Australia's government will implement a travel ban on those coming from Iran. Iran has very specific characteristics and the highest death rate outside of Hubei province. And again, I got to ask, why is that the case? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I know a lot of people still believe it's only like the 5G because there are a lot of parallels between the 5G symptoms and these other symptoms. There are, I can admit to that. But the problem is there's cases happening where there is no 5G. So, that can't be explained away so quickly. What makes sense to me, and I'm sorry I forgot your name, whoever mentioned it, I think your name was Gary. What makes sense to me is that they've released several different strains of different things. And now I will also agree that 5G can weaken your immune system drastically and mess up your energy body, and allow these lower things to... F5G, sorry, yeah. I gotta watch my vocabulary words. I keep forgetting. It can lower your immune system, so I can concede to that too. But I don't think it's only the FIVEG. I just don't.
Yeah, I don't doubt that there is a virus out there. I'm kind of wondering, is there more than one? As well. And I think there's a lot other things going on energetically, as I've said before, just from GMO foods, from pollution. We've got mother's milk that, has Roundup in it. The whole world is so toxic because of the system. All that has, dropped our immune systems down. Our food is not as nutritious as it was 100 years ago. Yeah, there are NaNO particulates, I believe, that are responsible for things like morgollons and other things like that as well going on. There's so much going on. There's so many layers to this. It's layer upon layer upon layer, and hence that's why we do the intermittent fasting. So we're trying to kind of allow our bodies to purge and do sweat things out as much as you can, as well. Charge your water, with positive intentions. Emoto's experiments showed that our intentions affect water, so, pray over your food, bless your food. It's definitely a good idea. Spend time in meditation and QiGong and Tai Chi and things like that. I saw, I forget who it was, somebody was just saying they stopped going to the gym, but they're going to work out at home. And that's a good idea too. You get great workouts just doing things like Hindu squats, Hindu push-ups, some yoga. You could do, just simply get off of Amazon some target pads like we have, and we just practice our cardio kickboxing, hitting targets every day, and that gives us a really good cardiovascular workout. Oxygenate. We need to oxygenate and get some sun as well, D3, vitamin D3. So there's so many things we can do to boost ourselves. And there's more stuff too out there. So there's this disease X that they've been talking about. And so here you see disease X feared to hit Ethiopia as dying villagers bleed from eyes. And what they're talking about is something you may have heard before. It's Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever. Now, you remember there was a guy that had hemorrhagic fever in Kentucky. And I've never heard anything follow up on that as well. And then there was a lady that tested positive for CV-19. And what was the other thing she tested positive for? I forget. Something else now. We talked about that like 2 days ago. She tested positive for two things at the same time. So there's so many things out there. That mystery disease in Brazil, the other mystery disease over in the west coast of Africa, mutations and things, that hopefully don't blend together. I mean, think about all the pigs that were killed with swine flu, the pig Ebola. Would I eat pork? No. Not. I mean, do I love? I loved bacon. And I lived in the South, and I have had pulled pork. I mean, taste-wise, I loved it. Now I think I've purged myself of any desire for any meat products. Honestly, I don't have any desire for them anymore, and I felt that for a while. But I do think there's potential to catch stuff from meat as well. Of course, we could catch it from anything. We've seen, people get sick from tainted lettuce with salmonella, So what is disease X? Well, disease X is that term created by the WHO for an unknown disease that eventually could spark a pandemic, even though they don't declare pandemics anymore because their bonds are going to default.
Right. And that's where their priorities lie. And to me, I'm thinking of this as some really sadistic alchemist put this together. They put a little bit of the illness and with a little bit of EMF frequency with a little bit of a bad diet, and boom, you have some pretty serious problems. And they've had plenty of time to work on this, and besides, they're ahead of us anyway. I mean, so it's just super important we watch out for ourselves, and I couldn't feel more blessed to be able to come on here and share with you guys and talk with you guys, and we can kind of prep together. It doesn't matter if our family members aren't going to listen to us. Just know that there's a little bit of information that's seeded in the back of their head. All you need to do is plant seeds. Don't need to push it. Just plant those seeds.
Jenny Lee says, chicken always makes me sick. I think it has hormones. It might be the lectins. I'm curious if you are blood type B, because I'm blood type B. And chicken will do the same with me, especially if you had to reheat it. It increases the lectin and gives you a negative response. Every blood type is a little bit different. And then we are evolving as well, so people are changing. And tuna has, obviously, I mean, the seas are just so polluted now as well. So, I mean, it's been quite a while since we eat really much fish or anything. We've basically gotten used to cycling ourselves through, lentils, rice and beans, fresh veggies. That's kind of the bulk of what we really are eating. Salads, every day when we can. And, focusing on the veggies and, some fruit. And so it won't be any change for us because our diet is going to be the same as we've, steered away from meats. And everybody's different. So we all have to make our own decisions. So you see here number of coronavirus cases from unknown source growing in the U.S. because they're not, at first they were only just concerned about people that came in contact with people from Hubei province in China. And of course that's changed as the rest of the world is now also experiencing cases. But who knows? Maybe these cases, maybe they just drop out of the sky, if you know what I mean, as well. And this is something, I'm going to do a video later on today because I feel like we're getting closer and closer at the same time to the possible outright conflict going on. The U.S. is pulling nukes out of Turkey, so we should pay attention to that as well. Because if Turkey and Russia get going at it, and it's starting to get there, they're actually hitting each other directly now a little bit in Syria. But and let's see if it escalates. Let's hope not. But pulling the nukes out of Turkey, that's a sign that they're aware that it could escalate, and they want to make sure that obviously the nukes don't get hit or lost or end up in Russian hands. And here we have Defender 2020. There's so many things going on right now. These are war games as well. And European infrastructure will be tested. You've got to wonder, would they close down and stop war games? Because soldiers are going to be around other soldiers. They're all going to be just going around with masks on, I guess.
Right. I know. And then there's that too. So there's like so much information that's so contradictory. How can you not but just scratch your head and things that make you go,
So you got 20,000 troops from units in 15 different states. Interesting. You got to wonder. I mean, would it make sense to shut these type of events down as well if it's going to be spreading so much? And how things have changed, think about the world now. I mean, now, well, in Asia, you see people with masks. We still don't see them in the U.S., but it's going to happen if you could get your masks, your hands on some masks. And this was what a person went through. One person that got the virus on the cruise ship and how they felt. And this is out of Zero Hedge. I knew my number was up. American coronavirus patient speaks out on how they felt, and they're in their late 60s, and they were on the Diamond Princess, the infamous cruise ship now. And they started with a cough and then started to feel horrible. And, again, it's just how they went through getting sick. And luckily they did not pass on. So this is the big question. How is it going to mutate? How is it going to mutate? Because these things do mutate. And so as it progresses around the globe, like everybody has different genetic backgrounds. There's so many different haplogroups. We have different blood types and we have different haplogroups. It's going to affect certain populations differently, and it will react with what people have in their system as well. So it's a huge, huge thing to watch. And again, I wonder, why is Iran getting hit so hard? What is it? Is it something that's been programmed in there? It's so fascinating too, because when we think of a virus, I think the first thing we think nowadays might be, if we weren't talking about this, might be computer virus, But it's like that. It's like that, and of course, we could even say that our bodies, our physical bodies, are biological computers of a sort. And so, when a virus enters us, it kind of alters our programming. And so, and Cindy's nodding, and
Well, yeah, I've always looked at the human body very much like a computer because it does have code. That's your DNA. And then you get information that comes in and tells that code what to do. And then the code goes out and unwraps everything. To me, it's so much like a computer, and then there's like data transfer. It's not too different. And that's what, I do look at this as something coming in to corrupt the programming. And the best way around it is just to put up your firewalls, I guess, take care of your energy body, take care of your temple. Super important in times like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and our bodies are vehicles. I totally believe that. Like when in the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talking to Arjuna, Krishna says, the difference between me and you is I remember my past lives and you don't. And so we are a species with amnesia. We don't even know our history. Yeah, and that's getting more apparent all the time. I mean, I shared with you guys, we're looking at property that's 350 miles away from the ocean, and there's sponges on the property, sea sponges. And there's coral, and I don't think it's that old. Yeah, I don't buy it. It's millions of years old. I don't even think it's thousands of years old. So how was it deposited there, maybe in the past a couple hundred years? We've talked about mud floods. We are so controlled on every single level here, every level, as we try to uncover things. So my question is, how was this programmed? Because I don't believe this is a natural occurring thing. How was it programmed to get more severe as it goes? And was it released in a certain area with the knowledge that it's going to be at a certain RO, with also a certain death rate? And then knowing when it gets to certain genetic, areas where certain genetics are more prevalent, because again, blood types are different across the globe. Like we see more Rh negatives coming out of Europe and out of the Caucasus region and certain areas as well. And that's a whole other, fish to fry, so to speak, as well with the Rh negative thing. But also the different blood types and haplogroups. I just wonder how they did their programming, and I guess we will find out. And so this was a thread off of Reddit. We've seen a lot of evidence that there's a lot of people that have known about this well before this happened. We talked about Event 201. We talked about the 2010 video, China's going to catch a cold. We found out that there were other exercises going on. Now, Event 201 was last October, and then there was another exercise going on in September about the same sort of thing. People have known about this for a long time. And so, this thread is from the 31st of January. So, it was already underway. But what's interesting is some of the posts in here. Well, one of them, talks about Italy. If it begins in Italy, Italy is going to get hammered. And how would they know that? How would they know that Italy was going to be the center point of the European outbreak? And then also, it talks about Iran as well. So I think there's an awful lot of people that knew about this scenario that we're seeing. How did they know? I mean, are they all, are some of them people that are in these secret societies, that are controlling our reality? There's some members of the Skull and Bones, some members of the CFR, the Trilateral, some members of, with Bilderbergs, perhaps, Freemasons. So, Italy and Iran, they're climbing so rapidly and getting hammered. How would they know, again?
Right. It's because they have done this before. They've done it before and they'll do it again. So they sort of kind of know the ropes. They know the rules. They know how to play the game, and they know how to stick it to us. And that's where we need to start getting extremely selfish with ourselves and understand that these guys aren't going to come out of the woodwork and tell us what's going on directly. It's our responsibility to read as best we can between the lines, because it's not like this would be the first time we were lied to.
So we saw a case in Brazil. We see a case in Ecuador now. As really, it's just going to keep spreading. We know that. Oregon announces first presumptive case as well. Pretty much it's heading everywhere, we could say, with reasonable certainty. And so Oregon coronavirus case shuts Lake Oswego Elementary School down. Now, there was a ton of schools. There have been a ton of schools just shut down from the flu, quote unquote. And we don't know if that was the flu or if it was CV-19. We don't know. They didn't test, so we don't know. Coronavirus outbreak at nursery school with 4 children infected. There are almost 40 confirmed cases in the Heinsberg district, and almost 185 school children have been placed in quarantine near Bonn. Germany's another spot where it seems to be breaking out en masse. France as well. We could see how this is progressing. It's going down a relatively predictable line now. And here you see Luxembourg reports its first case, tiny little country of Luxembourg. And Belgians start hoarding for fear of coronavirus. People are definitely hoarding now. And if you guys haven't prepped, start prepping now, because we saw the lines, right? The lines are crazy in California now. So terrible news from the CDC press conference. First presumptive case of CV-19 health worker. First possible outbreak in a skilled nursing facility in Washington that we were talking about, Washington States, and it was a person in their 50s. And what's interesting too is they don't seem to know if it was a woman or a male. The first reports out were saying it's a female, and then there was newer reports saying it was a male. And here we see Fort Custer National Guard Training Center prepares for CV patients. That's another thing that so many people are waiting to see how it happens when medical martial law comes into effect. So this is out of Battle Creek, Michigan. Things are escalating, guys. It's definitely time to be as prepared as we can be. I hope everybody already has at least several months of food. Look at how long Wuhan's been on lockdown now, right? I mean, we're about to go into March. And when we talked about the government telling us, so long ago, be ready for 6 months without the grid, it's the same thing, and so they could laugh at us preppers and survivalist types and say, you guys are all doom and gloom. You're always just expecting the worst. But, you prepare for the worst and you hope for the best. But you have to balance being a realist with being an optimist at the same time. We want to be optimistic. We could keep saying that, the stuff that we see up in the clouds every day is fairy dust. But, when you see it coming out of, these tankers, and people having stuff coming out of their skin, and people that have, chem cough, that's real. It is real. No matter how much we want to say, it's all, fairy dust and angels. There are, devilish energies at work, demonic energies at work as well. So this is a free will universe. It's pretty obvious it's a free will universe because, we don't have a perfect society. We don't, and there are some that take advantage of things. Unfortunately, and take advantage of others. And then there are other people that are like human angels, and do amazing acts of service for others. Always lifting other people up, always supporting other people, staying positive, but also being a realist. So as always, we gotta hope for the best. Use our power of intention and pray for the best, but at the same time, it would be foolish not to prepare for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones, your kids, your grandkids. It just would be foolish.
Right? If those of us who are sensitive and we can see, or, and we do have a knowing, I find it to be a responsibility to let people know what's going on. They don't need to take me seriously because that's my job. I'll take myself seriously. But I think it is important that we plant seeds, that's what we can do. And I think prepping time is over, but we still have time to do a little bit more. Do what you can. No act is too small, and it'll count.
Yeah, and Rosemary's urging people to go check out her site. Please do, and Rosemary's on Facebook. Rosemary, post your link to your site if you could. And she's a naturopath, iridologist, amazing woman, a very dear friend. We love her. Yes. And she just wants to help people, So there's so many people like that out. And there's the link for you guys. There's so many people that just simply, all they want to do is help people. And that's beautiful. So, my friends, I want to thank you for your support, both on here and also on Ko-Fi and Patreon. You keep us going. They, like yesterday, they hit us hard again. But we're rolling with the punches. That's all we could do with the censorship and everything else that we see coming on. And we'll see if we can make it back for another one tonight, because it feels like things are ramping up a lot. Yeah. So, yeah, no fear. Just be watchful, as Zealot Now Chosen says. Do whatever preparations you can, and long term, it might be best to invest in some seeds. Yep. And start saving your seeds from organic, non-GMO, heirloom veggies and fruits and things along those lines, or invest in some grow lights, perhaps. So you could grow stuff indoors as well. So, as always, guys, God bless and namaste.
God bless and namaste.